how long were you living in Washington D.C. before you moved to Jackson County? First of all.
Yeah, so I was last living in Jackson County at the end of President Bush's administration when I was U.S. Attorney. So I spent about 12 years in Washington, in the Washington, D.C. area. And I answered Senator Danforth's call for somebody to step up and to run as a Republican running as an independent who would best represent the views and values of Missouri voters. And so I came home to Missouri for this race.
So I would argue that the whole question of like residency is kind of an overrated political issue in Missouri. I mean, we saw that with Josh Hawley a couple of times. But do you anticipate that if your campaign starts gaining traction, that the fact that you just moved back here for the first time since George W. Bush's administration is going to be a liability for you?
I think it's something that my political opponents will certainly try to use, but I think most voters know that there are bigger issues in this race. I mean, there are really monumental issues in this race. So, for example, Eric Schmidt trying to overturn the 2020 election, I believe is inconsistent with our Constitution and our democracy. So, what's more important to voters? Somebody who's going to stand up for our democracy and our Constitution, or the issue of whether somebody lived outside the state for a part of their adult life. And then similarly, I think on the Democratic side, we're seeing huge inflation that's cutting into people's paychecks. It's really hurting people. And I think it's in large part because of the excessive spending from the Biden administration and the Democrats. And so that's a bigger issue to people than whether I lived outside the state for several years.